Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Cheers to everybody.
Woo, you!
And to you.
Yes.
So good evening and welcome to the non-PC housing program. This is our premiere show. We're working out the bugs, so please bear with us. We're trying to be as biting and funny as possible. I'd like to read you our mission statement just so everyone knows what we're about, and that will make sense. So we move forward from there. To provide and encourage open, clear, and transparent dialogue on the subject of housing in all areas that it touches, in a non-PC manner, without fear of retaliation, presented by our members who have deep-seated experience, which we'll talk about, empathy, and due diligent homework. To shine the light on the misconception of bad actors or actions in all facets of housing. Although we are fighting for our local area, this conversation extends everywhere and to everyone. We believe this is the way, a better way, to secure safe housing and move our lives forward. And that was it. And I was blind by the light.
Yeah.
So we want to start with some stories. So who would like to go first?
Go ahead.
Backstories.
Yeah.
Okay. As most of you know, I'm the village president in Bellows Falls. I'm also on the planning commission for town. I'm on the high school, and I'm a JP and a notary, and I think I covered most of those things.
What's your name?
Deborah Wright. Thank you for reminding me that piece. I appreciate that. My commitment to our community is I would hope the obvious, is I can remain the village president and will for another year. Thank you very much at this point. And elections are next week. And I come to this area because my husband is from here, and was born and raised in the Bellows Falls, North or East Bellows Falls area, which is North Walpole. Would have gone to school at the high school here, except that it got built after the one in Walpole, so he went there. Anyway, we had 3 children and moved away for a little while and came back here and started a business, moved into Bellows Falls in 2004. I have been homeless on both coasts, along with my family, my 3 children, my husband. We've had some strange adventures, but every time we have worked hard to get to a place where we're proactive. We do all of the work. We were working the whole time we were homeless on both coasts. We continue to strive to get into housing. We had to tell a few fibs here and there to get accurate housing from living in a tent or living in someone else's home while we did all that. And although I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about all those things, we can another show, because a lot of problems come up that I see here too. There were deficiencies in many housing agencies that were unable to help us as we needed it. We 3 children, we were like a circus. So finding housing for that. You can't have pets, all those things happen on both coasts. So we did a lot of things. And I very much understand a lot of what goes on in housing, and it's worse now than it used to be. Homelessness is a severe issue, and people who are in housing, are without housing, also have other issues that they need to deal with. And sometimes a lack of secure housing causes some of those issues and makes them worse. I'm not sure what else I need to say at this point about my background, but understand that I'm deeply committed to our community and want to make a better future for the future generations. And that's it. I'm not here just for now. I'm here for the future and want to build a better community. That's it. So somebody else, pick it up before I start to cry. Okay.
Do you want to go or?
Go ahead, and then I'll read the disclaimer after. Yeah.
So, my name's Rebecca Gagnon, and as a kid, I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, and I would travel up here to see family. I love Vermont. I always came up here every year and hung out with my cousins and my aunt. And growing up, we lived in housing. So, we had a landlord. We were in poverty. We were on welfare. We struggled a lot. My mom was a single mom. And we just, my attraction was always real estate. Growing up in Salem, Mass, it's gorgeous area, the gorgeous homes. I couldn't get my start anywhere but Bellows Falls because Vermont was very accepting about assisting people that are in poverty, helping people out, get loans. When I moved to Bellows Falls, I always knew I wanted to have property. So I'm a local landlord in Bellows Falls. I choose to buy real estate in Bellows Falls because I live here and I truly believe that the landlord should be local. I like the idea that I live locally. I can assist my tenants quickly if they need help. I have 4 buildings right now. I've been involved in landlordship since 2000. I have about 11 units. And I'm heavily active in anything to do with real estate and landlordship. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with what landlords do. And I am quite often, thought of as, well, if you're a landlord in Bellows Falls, you must be a slumlord. And you must be screwing over your tenants and just taking money and not assisting or helping your tenants. That's totally the opposite of what I do as a local landlord. And for the majority of some of the local landlords that I know, I think they really care about the community. I think they care about the buildings. I think they care about the aesthetics. And I think they care about the people that are involved. I've worked with many organizations. I was a landlord advocate for Pathways to Housing, which is a program that housed homeless people. I was the advocate that actually met with people that were living under the bridge. I would find them apartments in Brattleboro. I would work with the landlord, and I would convince the landlord that, hey, let's give this person, let's give them a chance. Let's give them a try here. And I housed about 55 people, and they have backgrounds of mental illness, no jobs. They struggled, they were drug addicted, and there was just a real stigma for those people. But then there were landlords that were actually willing to help and support them. However, I see that living in this town, that was in Brattleboro, seeing what's going on in Bellows Falls right now. This is part of why we started this committee. Mm-hmm. We do have a lot of people that are struggling with a lot of issues that are being evicted. And that for some reason or other, they're being evicted and asked to move on, and landlords are making a change from assisting those people with issues that cause them to be homeless because the economy's changing. Things are changing in Bellows Falls, increase in rent, increase in housing properties, and increase in people from out of state moving in, taking on homes, and closing out the availability of apartments to some of the people. So I'm interested in this education for our community because I want to identify what's going on. I want people to be able to speak up and speak freely, and I want to see how we can make things better or make a change or even identify where Bellows Falls is going to in the form of housing and availability for people in our community.
That's great.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'm Betsy Thurston. I work with the Bellows Falls Downtown Development Alliance. Write for the local paper. I report on government board meetings. I love this town. I did not grow up in Bellows Falls. I grew up in central Vermont. And I actually grew up without electricity, no running water, no phone until I left home. So very rural, but very poor. And so I didn't experience the issues of apartments until I left home. And I have been one of those, I'm probably a forever renter. And I've had people actually tell me, we would love to see you. You would be perfect to buy this house and get into this program. Well, lifestyle choices I've made, I kind of screwed up financially, and I I don't have the credit. So I'm interested in this because as a renter, I can hardly afford, you know, an apartment that I actually would like to live in. So I lived in Australia for a year, and really I didn't have a lot of money, but this was how it was going to work. So I met people, and we lived on the beach, and I ate the sandy potatoes that fell in the fire. So I mean, and I was homeless, and I was hitchhiking, and it was like a really glorified homeless. But I got to know other people that really didn't have a choice, and they were Aboriginal and Australian, and they were homeless. And the connections we made, and you know, the dynamics, I definitely understood. Wow, I'm really lucky to be here, but I'm also like borderline, how am I going to get out of here? How do I get home? I had to make sure, you know, there was a deadline with my ticket. I had to leave because then I knew I would be, you know, sort of stuck. And I didn't want to be in jail in Australia. So, but why I'm here, I really think there are solutions to these problems, and I'd like to help figure those out. But I do agree we need to dig up the problems. It's time to, you know, we have a lot of problems with housing, and it's trying to figure out. So, and I'm selfish, I would like to live somewhere cheaper and nicer, but it's not just about me, it's about people that, the foundation of their survival and their life is housing. And if you don't have a safe place to be, how do you survive? And how do you thrive? So it's surviving versus thriving. So, and with that, I would just like to read our disclaimer, because now you know we're all involved with the town. We've done really, you know, we've chosen to be here for Bellows Falls and this town of Rockingham, but the views expressed by members of the non-PC housing program are solely our own and are not to be construed as having affiliation or connection with any of our employers, groups, or organizations. These are wholly our opinions. We are not here in any sanctioned capacity, and the facts we share are for the good of all. Take them or leave them. While some content may be inflammatory and or upsetting, such content is intended to enlighten, educate, and to further a transparent dialogue on the subject of housing and all its parts.
Cool. Good. Thank you. Before we jump into the agenda, which we will, I just want everyone to understand that what we bring to the table here is our life experiences and how we manage to move forward. Both Rebecca and I are homeowners. She owns many homes. I own one home. And coming from homeless or poverty, and your adventures on your own, and you're here. We learned a lot of maybe tricks, things to get us through. Realizing what wasn't working, what failed, and where we had to go next. And our determination to do these things is what has gotten us to this point. And we want to be able to share that strength, that enthusiasm, that endurance to move forward and realize that no matter where you are in your housing situation, if you want it to be better, we can help you find these ways because we're willing to do the legwork, the homework to make that happen. That's what we're here for.
Good.
All right.
So I think we should let the group know like how this is gonna, it's kind of like The Office, right? Remember the show The Office?
Yes.
We're just gonna sit here, have a nice, have some liquid, and we're gonna talk about things that we feel we need to talk about.
Right.
Right?
So we have topics we'd like to cover, but we are gonna
we're not always
feed
gonna
off
look
each
at the
other.
camera.
Yeah, we might forget you're here.
Forget you're here. We're probably gonna drop the F-bomb because this is the non-PC housing.
That's right. Please remember,
And
that's our logo.
you know, Betsy probably, with her background of being a journalist, will never maybe drop the F-bomb, but my background, growing up in the streets of next to Lynn, Massachusetts, I might. But what we
If I get really excited, I do swear.
okay, what we really want to do is make this look like a safe space. So if we're talking about a subject that the people that are watching can email us about an issue that they're having, and they can know from our disclosure that their name is confidential, we will never let that out, and if they want us to talk about a very sensitive subject, we'll be more than happy to do that. But this is really it's like three women sitting at a local cafe having a chat about the issues going on right now.
Okay, so we are.
And how we got here.
Yes. Here's the email address. We'll keep showing it in different ways, different formats. It'll probably be something that'll be edited in, as well as non-PC housing, all one word, run together, at gmail.com. And I'm putting it up now just so we have it. We have an agenda here of items that we probably won't get to all of them today, but we will at a future meeting, and we will continue. So how do we meet?
How did we meet? Who wants to open with how we met?
I will open because, so I'm not a landlord, and Deb, because of my connections with other business owners, landlords, she had sent, hey, could you send this out? It was a landlord appreciation dinner hosted by Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust.
And Springfield Housing.
And Springfield Housing Authority. And I RSVP'd for Rebecca, and I invited Brent. Lisi, because I knew those two were owners, and Jeff Dunbar.
And they never showed up. Just so you
By
know.
the way,
So Rebecca
they did
showed
not
up.
show up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't give them much notice.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like
it was short notice.
2 or
Yeah.
3 hours.
That's true.
And so the person that emailed me back and said, oh, so you're on the list. And I said, oh, okay. Because I thought, well, free spaghetti dinner.
Yeah. Exactly.
We did eat all the meatballs.
Yeah. Well, I just had salad. Salad and a couple drinks. That was all I
Okay.
had. We were busy
Okay.
talking.
Because
so
I'm
much.
not a landlord, that was my issue. But it was really good to go to. And then we just sat down and started talking just about the issues. Wrote this down. What's happening with people with mental illness is how this conversation started.
No,
Yeah.
we
Was that the
chose
first?
the table closest to the bar.
Oh, you're right.
Stop.
Yeah. Where I was, by the way, the first one sitting there.
She was the first one sitting there.
And I think you
And I
came
thought,
along, and then you
all
came
right,
along, and a
there's-
couple more
there's-
people came along.
There's Deb. I gotta sit
It was a
next to
very
Deb.
lively conversation for at least an
Presentable.
hour.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think
So-
we were the last ones to leave.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we became very inspirited about realizing that we could do this, and that I don't know who actually brought up the idea of doing a show. Was it you?
It was me.
It was you.
It was
Thank
you?
you.
Oh, it was
Take
you.
credit.
That was her. And I thought that's a great idea, and in fact is always looking for programming. So it seemed an opportunity to provide as a service, basically for our community, to give them an opportunity to look at programs, because as over time we will get more deeply into all these things, even more deeply than we are initially tonight.
But
This is our first show.
This
Right.
show is exactly like what we talked about. This show is going to emulate our roundtable discussion
Right.
at the land. It is like pretend the bar is right there, and we're going to talk about stuff that is important in the crap that's going on in Bellows Falls right now.
Mm-hmm. So are we ready to get into it?
I think so. And how do you remember? I remember telling you guys that
Excuse me.
I have a person with severe mental illness that is getting evicted from one of my apartments. And I worked with this particular person for a year in trying to get them to work within the parameters. This was a person that was very, very vocal and violent within the household and abusive towards me. And I reached out to the drop-in center, and I reached out to the Section 8 people saying, hey, how can we make sure this person maintains their housing? And at that point, I didn't get any assistance, and they were like, oh, just kind of deal with it, and we would love to help you. And they appeased me, and they placated, and I'm like, eventually, I would write this person letters saying, if you don't change your attitude and your approach, they almost lit the house on fire 2 times, they were aggressive towards everybody in the neighborhood, myself. This was just a situation, but it was because of their background, their mental illness. So when I went to the support services that we typically have, and I said, listen, I need to evict this person, but I want to make sure they have a place to go.
Right.
This person has been on Section 8 for 20 years, and I know Section 8 will help mortgage a place. This person needs to have their own space, their own house. They're not living with other people. They're not fighting with other people. They're not dealing with jerk landlord, you know, because eventually all the landlords are assholes.
Jerks. Yeah, well.
We're jerks eventually. And, you know, what can we do to get this person a tiny house on Green Street? You know, they don't need a lot. And it was just deaf ear. Oh wow, what an idea! Like, are you kidding me? You know, how have you not thought about this? And so our conversation about that, and this person is going to be evicted in July. They've gone through 5 landlords in Bellows Falls.
Beside you or
beside
you?
Beside me. This person might be
And
living
there's
in a
nowhere.
car. They might end up in a hotel, and if they do, because of their mental illness, they're not gonna survive. They have animals, you know, and they can't help it, right? But that sparked a conversation with you guys when I said, oh yeah, and have you heard about 21 Henry Street?
Yep.
And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there is an outside landlord or group that bought 21 Henry Street for $300,000
And how many apartments?
and 12
apartments.
apartments, and they're all getting evicted.
At the
And
end of.
at
Some-
June,
No,
in June, they got
in
90.
June.
They
It's
got
not at the end of June. I
they-
thought it was the end of June.
They're-
It's somewhere in June.
They got a 90-day letter,
How was
and these are people that they're basically renting like a one-room or studio apartment, 12 units. Where are they going?
Yeah.
Are they
And
going
most
right up
of
to the
them have
hotel?
the record or some stamp that nobody else wants to rent to them.
They're
right?
thieves.
There's the
They're
do not.
thieves. They're
They're
drug
thieves,
addicted. They're
addictions,
drug
they're
dealers.
alcoholics,
They're
they're just- yeah.
alcoholics. They're the type of people that every landlord is going to say, I don't need to rent to you because I can get a professional person, I can get a traveling nurse, I can get a traveling person, and I can make $1,000 more than what you're able to give
Right.
me.
Right, like what they do
But
with
what
Green
about the
Green.
people
Yeah.
in that building that do work in town and like we know them?
And we know some of
And-
them.
Yeah.
Because they've been there for years and they're
They're quality
actually residents in our
employees, they're
communities.
fantastic people,
Mhm.
but they've made poor life choices.
And they wound up
which is-
they wound up in that kind of housing, and insecure housing, I'd have to call it
It
that
is.
kind of thing, it's insecure housing. And there've been many problems with other tenants in the building, not necessarily all of them, it isn't. It's only some of them, and they're all getting lumped in together. And it's
Exactly.
find housing or leave. And I'm very concerned about the fact that we can't find him housing here, that we have, we've accepted at least one immigrant family who's a refugee family here, if not more, in our village. And we have people who've lived here for years who can't find a place to live. Clearly, Windham's a housing project is not gonna be completed until at least the end of
Oh,
the
yeah.
summer in September or
And
October.
that's the one right next to PK's.
Yeah, that's the one right next to PK's, and
Well, it's only 26
But
units.
they don't-
I know,
But they,
27 actually.
but they don't
27.
need, they don't need to house people that are low income. They only have a few
I know,
apartments.
no,
per
they
so-
they do have a regulated amount though. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
low income, but they do have some boundaries about which to rent. But when we hear a most recent apartment is renting in Bellows Falls for $1,600 a
Yeah.
month, no utilities included.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about something more like $1,800 to $2,000 per month.
Right.
Can
Right.
can
That
a
is
low
something I
income
can't afford.
can a low income person handle that? No.
Only if they're Section 8, if the state
And-
is paying for their rent.
Not
According
even. 'cause
Not even?
Section- No, Section 8 will only go to
No,
a certain limit. They
it's a
don't pay for the whole
percentage.
thing.
And I was told by the listers, at least just a couple of years ago, that we don't have that many Section 8 people in our community. So where's all the money coming from? How can they afford to, I mean, that's more than my mortgage. I don't
Wow.
understand how anyone can afford that. So going back to 21 Henry, these people will be displaced to other places. Some of them have children. I heard some of that information today. And where
Right,
are they
they're
going to go?
invested. They love
Yes.
Central Elementary School. They
Their kids
love
have,
their teachers.
maybe another year in high school for one or two of them. And they're going to be leaving, so they will not be able to graduate with the rest of their class.
But some of them are also still dealing drugs and
Yes.
stealing
But-
catalytic converters.
But when you have a new owner who comes in, new broom sweeps clean, that's the old, pablum piece of it, yeah. That's what they do, so they kick everybody out, so they can start over, whatever they decide to do with the building, I don't know. I understand that the zoning administrator is working with them on something, so that might be change of use. The change of use might turn it into residential, residential as in single family or two family. It might not be.
Airbnbs.
Yeah,
You don't know what's gonna go on with
You know,
it.
which of course there's been complaints that Airbnbs are cutting into rental housing and reducing the amount of rental housing available, because you can make so much more money off of people who just stay a weekend or a week or a month.
But not everyone wants to deal with that
I know,
either.
that's a
So-
different, that's all a different
Yeah.
ballgame too. But
That's a lot of work.
all these families, whether there's 1, 2, 3, or 4 people in the families that are in that one building, will mainly not be here. They'll
In there,
want-
all right, so
they'll have to leave.
I sent out a Facebook request that said, hey, the other night, has anyone heard about 21 Henry Street? These people are all getting displaced. And some people had the mad face, some people had the happy face, and some people said, is that a bad thing? You know, and some
Yeah.
people said, oh, so they can put in Airbnbs. So you know,
So we don't know what's happening. I mean,
you know,
really.
I tried to get the answer.
The neighbor across the street might be like, yay.
I know, and I think, and I know,
You know,
that the emergency
Which is
services,
understandable.
yeah, public services wind up there frequently.
Right,
But we have some people we know are productive members of society living here, and they may not have any options other than couch surfing, perhaps with friends, in order to remain here. But that doesn't work for everybody. It just doesn't. And
you tried,
We need
We don't want
solutions.
them moving
you
to
called
New
the drop-in
Hampshire.
center and you couldn't figure out
I called I
how
called
many
the,
people are being
called Our Place,
displaced.
just to be specific, Our Place Drop-In Center, some of you know it, and they were elusive. Not necessarily forthcoming. I don't want people's names and all that stuff, but I want to help find solutions. We have just ARPA money that might be used, but may be used for housing. Depends on what the town and villages both decide to do. And where are we going with that on our housing? Yes, that takes us into, that little project. But what to do again, looking at solutions, what to do to save some of these people. Yes, unfortunately, there are some people that many who know the neighborhood would be happy to see gone.
Yep.
But they just wind up someplace else. They might wind up in Springfield
Good.
or something. And, but
Right.
then don't say they don't float back here, because they do. As soon as they find someone,
Well,
who
they have
lets them in.
transportation.
But are
Get
they
back here.
established here, and might their kids be thriving here, which is.
We don't know.
Right.
But because that's personal information, which belongs to them, of course, and we're not trying to intrude, but we want to be able to find answers. In order to find answers, we need to do details. We need more information, not names, but situations to see what solutions would actually work here. Remember the house on the end of Green Street, the one with 20 people living in it, it was a triple decker, got taken down.
Oh, yeah, that one that burned down.
That one, that had 20 people living in it. They weren't paying rent for like months and months and months. And they had to evict them because the building was in such poor shape. It was condemned and it was torn down. All of those people, where did they go? It's like, empty rats running off of a sinking ship, because they hadn't been paying rent. The owner was MIA, didn't live in the state.
But as a landlord, I wouldn't want to rent to those people.
I know.
I would be,
Some of them in the family might have been productive, though. You get 20
Right,
people living there,
maybe.
they just had to have a place to live.
Yep.
I have lived with other families from time to time, my whole family, because we didn't have our own residence, and we couldn't get one because we didn't have. I don't know, now they have to do background checks, and they have to do
Right,
credit
and you
checks.
don't have
and
past
they have to-
renting.
and I didn't have past renters to say, yes, they'd rented with me and they were fine. All of those things.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
It's
those-
harder now.
It
It's
is. So
really
you got.
hard. You
So it was
Google people.
difficult back
It's
when I was
5
doing
years,
it.
I think.
Imagine what it's like now.
5 years of
Exactly.
references. And,
Yeah, so you've got people,
Yeah.
that's, it's a mix. So you've got 20 people in a building, if we take that building. I don't know how many are in 21 Henry. If you have 12 families, you could probably talk about 12, maybe
Well,
20
12
people.
apartments, yeah, we could be talking 20 people.
Or
I don't know
more.
how many people are in
And
there.
some of them in there are productive. They just had to have a place to stay, because without that security of a place to live to take a bath, or shower, to have a place to sleep, to know where you can get your meals, all of those things keep you sane.
But are those people really productive, or are
We don't know.
we don't know. Are they just on the dole, they're hanging out, they're dealing drugs, they're stealing catalytic converters?
But if we look at that from that point,
You
then we
know,
don't want them all. Then we want them all gone.
Right.
We don't
Right.
know.
But they're not all like that.
What
and
is
they're
the
not all
crisis? Right.
productive
Right, they're not, yeah.
citizens.
And I,
However, who gets to choose that,
but
right?
I think that the culture of Bellows Falls might be changing. And I think it might be changing because landlords now can get prime rent and they don't need subsidized people, which is sad.
Yep.
Which is sad because some of those local people that are subsidized need the help.
Yep.
I
mean, that kind of rent.
I think 21 Henry Street,
We have
yeah, but,
17
yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
On,
So, you know.
I know, on William Street Extension,
Mhm.
it's like not the best street.
No.
It needs some help. Like it needs sidewalks and it needs paving and stuff
Well, that's
like
the one
that.
with the tree that's still in the roof.
$1,600.
Yeah, a month. They're ridiculous.
But you know, are they gonna move in and then put in the deposit and put in the rent and then never pay again?
And that's a possibility.
And it's $10,000 for an eviction.
I can tell you that I got something I got told yesterday. Yes. There was a house that was purchased 3 years ago, and the people who bought it haven't paid a single penny in taxes.
Yep.
Since then.
Yeah.
So not only renters
How
but
is that
homeowners can do,
possible, though?
because they just say F it. I mean, by now, I can tell you in my particular instance, when I bought my house and I was delinquent in paying my taxes, my mortgage company said, hey, we'll take care of that for you. And so now it's in escrow, and I pay for it in my regular mortgage.
Yep.
So it takes care of it. So how does a person buy a house unless they pay for it free and clear and there's no mortgage on it? Get themselves to that point.
But if you pay in cash, you obviously can afford.
I would think, so. But then they just say, forget it. And then another topic for another day is the programs that are out there that are helping people pay their back taxes and their back rent. The back taxes, back water and wastewater payments, delinquencies.
Homeowners assistance,
Yeah,
something.
and apparently a lot of those people are the usual suspects. So they'll let the state or the feds pay off that, and then they'll go right back to letting it go delinquent. But I got way off topic on 21 Henry. What to do about
But
it?
on 21 Henry, I think it's a cultural thing that's happening in Bellows Falls.
Mhm.
I think companies are moving in because you've got Dartmouth that traveling nurses can drive to. They can drive to Keene.
Yep.
They can drive to
Right, within 20 to 30 minutes,
Brattleboro.
all those areas.
It's a bedroom community. It's a great walking town. 2 coffee shops, Chinese, 20 hairstylists, whatever. It is a very nice area to live in, and I think people are realizing that, and they're getting prime rents for it.
Yeah,
And
because it's so close. Anything that's within 30 minutes of Keene is definitely prime territory because they got a college there, and it's a good sized college. The town does well because they get a lot of tax dollars, so they're very well supported. And if you can't afford to live there, and their rents must be at least $1,600 or more because we got college students who are
But
just
see, they have
eating it up.
more apartments.
Yep.
We have less apartments.
We
and
have
that's where then the
we have
price is.
1,000 apartments, and we're about to go to 1,027 in this year.
And isn't that amazing? And it's not enough.
It's also but it's also shocking.
But is it enough? It's not enough for who? If we just supported our local people that have always lived here and just took care of them.
Right.
Now we've got outside people moving in from, Alabama, Barry, Perkins.
Well, and that goes to the state.
They're all
The state has
shifting
offered
homeless people
so
around.
much assistance in certain things that
Yeah.
I do keep hearing, we're the only ones that are offering this.
Remember,
This is part of the problem.
we're also a receiving town. When you look at it from an education point, because I'm on the school board, we're a town that receives funding from the state because we have so many low-income families. Is that a good idea? Is it a good idea? Not necessarily. And especially if you're an apartment renter and you can't afford to pay, you get in, like you said, you pay your rent, and then you're broke. And
Yeah.
you can't afford to pay anymore. And then you're delinquent, and then you're there for as long as you can stay there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and distressfully for you, as that person. But then you leave, and all the resources that have been poured into that are all gone. So there's that problem too. With students, parents who come in here, move here, don't stay. Their children might be on IEPs, all those things. I'm sympathetic of that, but that becomes a resource, financial resource that is amassed to support them, and then they take off. So 1,000 apartments isn't necessarily a good thing. Our community needs housing, but there are bigger communities that can handle housing. We have to weigh this out. we still want owner-occupied apartments. We do.
I think
But
those
we
are
have a lot of
wonderful.
them that are not. And
You
will the
should be
will
one.
new ones be, yeah, you should be one of those.
Yeah.
And she can, hey, listen, talk
I
to this
think
lady,
so.
she can
I
help you
should.
into a house.
Yeah,
She
I
can
tried
help you.
to sell all of my buildings to my tenants and they said, I don't wanna be a landlord.
And that is that's an issue. My granddaughter bought a house last year, year before, maybe a couple years ago now. And she rents out the lower floor. She likes the upper floor, just like I do in my house, and she rents out the lower floor and becomes an income stream. And that's, it's a source to make sure that your money is, you're earning money every month, even though you're
But it's the
not.
down payment, it's the,
Of course.
all of that
But
is,
there are
yeah, very-
there are more supportive programs in Vermont than there are in
Right.
other places.
Yep.
And this woman here can help you find those.
Mm-hmm.
So to get you into that space, and you wouldn't be moving there, so you wouldn't be moving there without knowledge of where you're putting your foot next and hope it's not a cliff that you fall off of.
Right.
Because she's gone through this and she knows. But that's something that everybody needs. I want us to be able to sort this stuff out and come up with solutions for housing formulas. I would think this is a community emergency when 12 families are booted from our community. Even if there's problems with some of them.
I don't know if we'll be able.
Exactly, because it's
I
not
think
all of them.
But I
All
think
of them
I-
are no problem.
I think
That is the.
I think 21 Henry Street is systemic of the
Uh-huh.
underbelly, the
Right.
underbelly of what is happening.
This is
Be-
where we're digging.
Because there are
Yep.
people in the town that are like, good, get those people out. And then there are these nonprofit organizations that are getting money from the government
Uh-huh.
that said, no, we want to keep these types of people in here because it supports
Yeah, well,
our,
But there's
here's
also the
organizations.
social organizations that are working with, say there's two families in that building, that she or they have built relationships and know the kids are thriving and like, they don't wanna leave Bellows
yes, but at the
Falls.
same time,
But this
when,
is the-
when someone like Rebecca goes to ask these things, what can you do to help me with this person who clearly needs
Yeah, I
a different
can get
type of housing?
18 months.
All they wanted from her was
They
to
just did this.
continue housing this person.
Yeah,
I mean,
so there
that's,
was no
that's no
assistance.
real answer. That's
Yeah.
what's lame.
And
I
I
think you're right
and
about
I-
it.
yeah.
It's one of these things that's actually a big growing emergency under here that no one pays any attention to. I mean, I'm not saying no one, but the reality is it's not there so we can say, listen. Oh, here's a good example. There was a family that owned a house on Green Street. That's all I'm going to say about them.
Yeah.
They finally got evicted through the court system.
Yeah.
They went off to live at a
Where are they now?
no. They went off to live at a Scutney in a trailer home. This is wait till
Is
the
this
end.
is this the ones next to my house?
Is it that one?
Okay.
Anyway, I'm not
We're
sure.
not supposed to-
Anyway.
Oh,
Where are they now?
They found housing in 21 Henry Street.
No.
And two of them died of overdose.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
when was
Yeah.
that?
That was in this last year, in the last 12-month span, probably less than that, maybe 6 months.
Really?
So they left, got officially evicted, seeming to be an effective process of the courts, went and moved to a Scutney to live there for a while, and when there was a vacancy in that building, they occupied it, and then they died of drugs.
Two people.
2 people. Yeah, and some people would say, yay, let's throw a party that they're gone.
in
But
the
That's
last
why
one,
there
yeah.
was thumbs up.
but what
that
I'm
these
saying is that
are-
people who've lived here for a while don't necessarily leave. Bad pennies roll back. And that's what I'm trying to say. That's there. There's
Well-
at least a few of other ones that I'm well aware of, and the same kind of thing is happening, and it just happened to be that particular building.
But they're familiar with the area.
Yes.
They've made inroads.
Yes.
They have contacts.
Yes.
And 91 rolls right through our town. And so if they're drug dealing, they're getting
That's the
people coming out
thoroughfare.
from New Jersey and they drop right in.
Yep.
And there's a lot of that going on. So
So it's another
you know,
problem with and the building itself.
And so I don't think you're gonna get a lot of sympathy
I know.
from locals that say, great, let's have another organization
But we
come in.
really
and-
don't know where they're going.
We
Some
don't
of them
know.
are going to wind up in other properties. They're going to be living with other people. If
They
there's drug
might.
dealers, they're going to be living with other drugs.
Or they're living at the hotel.
Yes.
Yeah,
or they've
or-
gotten sponsored by the state.
What other nonprofit is helping them? Yeah.
Or the new owner might move problem people in from other residences
Yeah.
that they own and dump them into
And-
Bellows Falls.
and maybe not
Bellows
know.
Falls will be a dumping
Yeah.
ground.
Well-
But they might say, Bellows Falls is a dumping ground, let's just put all these people here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And the same thing has to do with this one, this issue does come into play with this one.
Yep.
Because the same types of people wind up coming back to our community every year, even though, because they have a program of homelessness. Their lifestyle is homelessness.
If
They
you build it, they'll come.
Exactly, and there are many situations or services that will continue to support them, which in some ways acts at cross purposes. That's what I'll get into more here when we actually get down to that topic. Where there are cross purposes with our community and the effects that they have, that these people have on our community while they're being provided with help from a service agency. It's like, because we talked about before we got here, of all the organizations that actually do all these things, but this organization doesn't know what this organization does. So the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. This person needs, these people, or a particular person needs to be guided to the next step. Instead of just saying, okay, I did that for you, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough.
That's where our mission statements are all different, but how do we connect each other?
Interconnect them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, but, yeah, so.
Are we gonna skip over and just talk about that?
No,
or
I think,
No.
I think 21 Henry
No.
Street is an issue, and it would be really good if the community hears this, could speak out and send us an email about their concerns about that. And
Hold
maybe,
on.
maybe.
Remember, it's nonpchousing@gmail.com.
Correct.
And maybe, the new owners who we don't know yet have a great plan. It would be nice because that's a huge building.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of residents right around that would probably like to know what the intent is, like who we're.
Yeah, they want to
gonna
know
get
what's happening next. You always want to know who your neighbors are going to be if you
Right.
can.
Right.
So do we want to?
And it's an exciting project, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
someone's
just
gonna
don't
come
know.
in and redo.
Yeah.
But
I
what,
delivered mail in that building.
where-
It's kind
where-
of a sketchy building.
where did those 12 people go? Did they go to the hotel that's being subsidized by the state? Are they gonna have to move back in? Or
Yeah.
did they go to another town?
Well, right now they're still in Henry because they don't have to move out
They
till
have
next
till
month.
June. But
they
it
have a
is
few
pretty,
weeks
it's
left.
been pretty quiet. I
It has
walked by
been
there.
So
and it's
some of
been
them are
very
gone. I
quiet.
heard
They
that
were
one
smart enough
one
to
family
not
was
find someone
moved to Rutland. Found them a place
Alright.
in Rutland, so far away from here.
And
If
right,
they've
then
been
it-
here for some time and they're
we're
good.
busing them to
Yeah.
high school. I mean, we're busing them back to Bellows Falls to go to school, to go to work.
I don't know.
or-
Are we? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
I have no
And that's
idea.
just one family out of 12 families in that building. So I don't know where everyone is going. I feel badly. I am concerned about some of the drug problems that are going on in our community, and some of them are there, and people will be happy if they leave, but that never guarantees that they're gone. Never
No.
does. And they may
Well,
have family
somewhere
here, and they'll be back because they have family here at some point.
And I just wonder, is this the best place for them? So they're gonna, be even worse down the road when they come back, if they're coming back.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's a bad thing for them to
So
leave.
this will be an evolving project. We'll see. We'll try to dig some more and get some more information and bring it back to the table at our next meeting. Like what happened after, because that's going to be
Right.
afterwards, because they're going to be out within 3 weeks. The building will be emptied. But we will talk to the people that we do know who are in there, see what they're doing, and see and can talk to some of the agencies and see what they
And I
have
think the
said.
neighbors, I think we need to.
Speak to the neighbors.
Maybe try and get to the neighbors, so. We have 3 topics that we didn't even touch on.
Well, how about we go to the second one, and then again, almost every one
And
of
we
our
can tease you with the other
We
two.
can tease
you
you.
with the other two.
So we're gonna so Burlington came up with an idea to take a parking lot, like a park and ride, and put in little pods for homeless people. And they would live in their pod, and then they would use like a bathroom.
A mutual bathroom,
A
right?
mutual bathroom, like a campground, where
Yeah.
they could go bathe and shower and then go back to their pod.
Uh-huh.
And they're putting in like 40 or 50 or 60
I think they're linking them together. Yeah, they're pretty good.
And they're just single room.
They're
pods.
single
Right.
little pods that are
Well,
about
probably-
the size
yeah,
of this room.
and probably
That's
have
it.
a bunk on
bed
attached to
and
the
that's
wall.
it.
Who knows? Yeah, that's it.
So
And it's temporary, right?
rumor has
6
6
it,
months,
That's
90
what's
days.
intended.
yeah. And the government, the state of Vermont has a ton of money for this stuff. So rumor has it that we're gonna use the island to put pods in.
We're talking
So
about
it's gonna
our
be
island where Robinson Paper Mill is.
Island pods are gonna go in on the island where Robinson Paper Mill is. So you're gonna see all these little pods over on the island.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to
rumor?
know.
Is this rumor?
Or is it real?
Potentially
I don't
gonna
know,
happen?
Betsy, you work in the development
I
office.
think it's
Right.
very much a rumor. Don't
Island
listen
pods
to
on the island.
this. Don't get too fired up.
But, you know, we had that.
However, that is a solution to
It
an
is.
issue that we might have.
But we
here.
did have the build it and they will come conversation, I
Yes.
think last week. And there is a concern that's why I was trying to get down to it. How many homeless people or home insecure people do we have in our own community that need a stable place to be? Okay, how many?
Right.
That we have here already, that are our residents who are just in between homes or whatever and need help. I know that's going off, but we had some stoppages, folks,
Yes,
so we'll be
we
on
have
for
a
a few
little
more
bit.
minutes. But
So is there
If that-
really a housing
right,
crisis?
do we
or are
have 5
taking care?
homeless? Do we have 20 homeless?
we have 2,
Um,
we don't
right.
even know.
I mean,
don't
and when
know.
they go homeless, do they move to other low-income towns like
Right.
Springfield and Rutland and Bennington?
Right, and we have no warming shelter, so there's nothing going on November
want
to
one?
spring. Well, we did, and when we did,
Because if you build it, they'll come.
the homeless people came here from everywhere else, and you'd see people you'd never seen before in like September and October, crouching, sleeping different places,
Yeah.
sleeping down in the Historical Society's place, there were tents and things like that.
On
police
the
would go-
back end of the Waypoint
Police
Center.
would check on them, exactly, and they were waiting for the shelter to open. So, and I feel badly for people that are homeless, but there are bigger communities like Burlington who are better financed to adapt to this stuff, and there is a bus to get there. We're not even Springfield where all the social service programs are. You know, they have a lot more than we do. We have some that we share with them. But should they be here when they get up in the morning, do they take a bus to Springfield and take care of their business? Mineral Street is not that far away. I'm simply, I have some concerns that doing the same thing here doesn't serve, it's only a bandage. That's how I look at it.
So here's the thing I know from working in the homeless community is if you offer up a service, they will travel to get there.
Mm-hmm.
They could live in Brattleboro, but if you have better options in Bellows Falls, there's an underground. There is an underground of homelessness that is a, conversation that's, hey, Bellows Falls has a beautiful, like,
And I'll
homeless
just
center.
comment
And
on that.
drop-in center,
There are
and they
people.
will get here to capitalize on that. So it's one of those things, if you build it, they'll come.
I know.
Yeah.
So, but when is, I hate to say the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard, I hate to say that, but when are we like overrun? When is enough for our
What is the
community?
quality of life getting
when
that
is-
much lower?
We
Yeah.
have to like put a cap at it, in my feeling. There needs
And
to
really,
be a
what
cap.
are we wanting to attract? What do we want
Is
to?
the Waypoint Center a place to have people that don't have homes who are hanging out there with spare tires and sleeping bags and stuff like that on
Yeah.
the back of the Waypoint Center, frightening people who visit? Is that the way we want to go? Is that the image we
That is our
want?
visitor center, so.
Yeah, and
Right.
again, I understand the need for homes, but has anyone read Chop Wood Carry Water?
Mm-mm.
It's an awesome book.
All right.
And it talks about, can't remember what community it was in, and they had a building, they occupied a building with multiple apartments, like quite a few of them, and everyone had tasks. And they did the same thing that you would do if you were in a condo committee. You had meetings, and you talked about the tasks that need to be accomplished, and who had the skills, and who could do what, and, they provided for each other. So that became a useful model in order to give them places to go to work for other jobs because they built skills while they were living in there, but they had a place to live. And they didn't pay rent because they were homeless, so they were trying to build up that ability to move forward to the next step. And that seems to me an appropriate way, instead of
Yeah.
scattering houses around on the island,
Right.
to
And
occupy
I
a
would love
building.
to see Bellows Falls be the pilot for that kind of program, and then
Yeah.
every
I'll get
state,
you.
every
I
community would
think
like
I
to
still have a
model.
copy of it. I did lose in the fire, so they're great. It's a great book, and I'll get you guys a copy. But
All right.
it's a useful tool to understand how you can get people who need this to work together to build it. And of course, you do need people who sponsor that, or people who are in the program and who also monitor the program. So ever someone who's leading the groups, committee meetings, and that sort of thing to get them to work on things to provide good housing for themselves. Like if you live in a condo, you gotta mow, someone
Right.
mows the lawn, or you pay for someone to mow the lawn.
But that's
you
all
do
of
all
our
these tasks.
social
The same thing. all those-
services, right?
Exactly.
Some group, or everyone takes turns, or
Yeah.
where would you?
And
fit?
everyone's, it's a equal share. It's not exactly like a, what do you call those, what were those, a commune, per se. It's not treated like a commune. It's providing services needed for everyone who dwells in the building.
Well, and if you give something of yourself, it's elevating yourself.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So you're
Everyone
thinking,
wants
okay,
to-
I'm not just homeless. I actually can offer this part of me because of my life experience.
Exactly.
And that's how we get people out of this.
So closing statements, what do you got? I think we need to close.
I think you do, you're
I
right.
think we're a little over, but let's
think we
try and
do.
get a
I'm
closing.
seeing 0 seconds on
Let's
that.
get a closing statement in from each of us.
I felt like that was my.
Okay,
No,
that's fine.
All right.
Would you mind? Because I
Um,
can finish.
I think this turned out to be great. We've already gotten some feedback on how we're going, and we have all these topics which will be continue to come back as they develop, and as we have more, we get more solutions. We find out, we test some waters. We talk to a lot of people. That's the legwork we're going to do for you, so that you have these experiences. We're gaining knowledge from them, but we want to make sure we can express that to you in a way that makes sense. Again, our email address is nonpchousing@gmail.com. Hopefully, once this is all put together, it'll also be in the bottom of the screen too, so you can see it. We will take all of your comments. You got some ideas. You want to say something. Eventually, we'll have speakers on here, people who would like to come and get grilled by the crew. And we'll also have, at some point, perhaps have a phone that you could call in during these if we do them live. Those are all developments as we do the first one. And I hope you appreciated it, got some knowledge out of this, have some questions, and start thinking. That's the whole point, dialoguing so that we think about the problems, and maybe one of us will have a brilliant solution which will take care of all this, but we don't know where that'll come from. That's my closing statement.
So mine is, I just want to remind everyone, this is kind of like the Joe Rogan show meets The View. Okay? So we're like a couple women sitting around a table that are like, just laying it all out there. We're not afraid to say what everyone else is afraid to say, but I really hope that people email us. It'll be very confidential, no names, and we just want to know what you're thinking about our community and the housing situation, and even beyond housing. What do you see? Do you see drug use? Do you see certain activity that you're not happy with? Just let us know what your thoughts are, because we want to be able to bring that to the community and talk about it in an open dialogue that is a safe place to have that conversation. Thank you.
And I just want to, we will definitely be giving our sources, as much information and resources that we have to share. And thank you very much for listening.
Good job.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, lady.